everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Writer's Underworld with myself, Richard Rose. So it seems like the new thing on the internet is complaining and being miserable. Everybody loves misery. They all decided they needed some company, and who am I to disagree? So I'm gonna get in on this trend. Today's video is the sad reality of being a writer. Now, can't speak for anybody else, but I know, a lot of us go through similar problems. And, it's kind of a starving artist situation. And I think it happens to all kinds of artists and all kinds of mediums. I'll talk about my experience. So when did it become sad? Actually, my writing career was born out of sadness. It was my 18th birthday, and I had a really bad hangover, and I didn't have any people hanging around. I was all by myself and things, and I was just miserable. And I was like, I don't want to do this for my whole life. And it was kind of that day that I decided that I wanted to be a writer. Used to be I wanted to be a musician or an actor or something like that, but it turns out you need other people for that. And I kind of had the thought that I can do this by myself. I don't need other people. I'll just do it by myself. I'm going to go be a writer. So born out of sadness, and it was kind of it was pretty cool for a while after that. And there was some good things. Maybe we'll do a whole other video about why it's pretty great to be a writer, but for now we're doing the sad reality. When did it become sad? All right, well, the first thing that happened to me, that probably happens to lots of people as you read, is you realize that there's not a lot of readers in the world. You think because you are a reader that everybody else in the world is going to be a reader too, but that couldn't be further from the truth. And so you're writing stuff and you're like, hey, check this out. And people are like, okay. But then you start to realize, what? Maybe these people don't want to be reading all this stuff I'm creating. And maybe they're just doing me a solid and, trying to be nice. And then, eventually people are like, I don't want to be nice anymore about all this stuff you're reading. I wasn't even really reading it before, just kind of pretending. And I kind of don't want to be pretending anymore. And in the beginning, I was on a website. I don't even remember what it's called. Fan Story? Is that still a thing? But I was on Fan Story, and that kind of helped me, get started in the beginning with, having people at least take a look at what I was doing and getting some feedback. But after Fan Story went away, I don't think anybody was reading my stuff. And even when I was attempting to find people to read my stuff, it was very difficult. And you sort of I guess that's the beginning of the isolation, and then I remember, and the isolation is an ongoing thing. But in the beginning, it kind of was a social thing because I had a social life and I was hanging out with people and I was just doing poetry mostly. And, I would always have a laptop with me so I could work on something. And, I was hanging out with people, I was writing stuff, and there were girls, and drugs and friends and, things happening. It was a good time. But then, life goes on, people grow up, and but the writing remains. You're still a writer. And also now you're kind of getting a feel for what you're doing, and you're getting into these bigger projects. Your projects are getting bigger, and they're taking up more of your time, taking up more of your life, and the people are gone, right? So now you're getting into the isolation. The next sad thing that happens is, okay, so you got a project and you want to get it published. What are you going to do? You're going to do the traditional submission process. And dude, I got a lot of bad things to say about the traditional submission process, but I'm not going to really probably say even 5% of it. What happened with me with the traditional submission process was that my movies kept getting, no, my books kept getting turned into movies. Like some of them were pretty cool movies, some of them were not very good movies, but I'm gonna have to do a different video about it. But so what are you doing? You're creating a cover letter, says this is what my story is about. You're creating a synopsis. All right, can you explain to us this idea just for us? Write up this 3-page synopsis of that, 100,000 word book that you just completed. Do this 3-page synopsis, send it to us, and that way we'll know what it's about. Because we don't really want your writing. What we want is your idea. Because we cannot use your writing. Your writing is useless to us, but we can use your idea and turn it into a crappy movie. So go through all this work to write up a nice cover letter to try and blow smoke up our ass and make us feel special. And then write up this synopsis so we can steal your idea, and then send it to us with some of your work so that we can, kind of get a better feel about what we are stealing. And then after we take it and we turn it into a crappy movie, we will not even say thank you. And you can go on with your life, and we will make a little bit of money or a lot of money sometimes. You will get nothing, except maybe a rejection letter if you're lucky. So, I mean, how many? I did that like 5 or 6 times with 5 or 6 different books until I got sick of it. It just, it hurt really bad to over and over see them taking my ideas. People wouldn't believe it. I could talk more about it to show you the chronology of this book came out this year with this movie. This book came out this year with this movie. This book came out this year with this movie. It matches up, So it was really happening, and it really sucked, and that's why I stopped traditionally submitting. Who wants to submit anyways, That's another thing. Even the term submission is degrading. But, so you give up on the traditional submission process. And you're like, well, there's something I can do. It was called indie publishing. It was the new big thing. It was all like, we don't need them. We're going to do our own thing. And here is when you start to encounter the other indie authors. And they're doing so good. You're like, how are these people doing so good? And then you realize it's like, well, all they want to do is have something to sell. You got all these people running around, they're supposed to be doing something meaningful, but they're just basically creating the path of least resistance, the lowest common denominator, the most whatever product they can come up with, and say, well, now I've got a book. Now I'm a novelist. Now everybody's going to want to be impressed with how good I can make a website. I can make a website so good, and I can make a cover. I'm going to have the fanciest cover artist you ever seen. It's going to be the greatest thing because everybody judges a book by its cover. We all know that. And I'm gonna market it. I'm gonna plaster it all across the internet. And I'm gonna have all the reviewers reviewing it. And everybody's gonna say the greatest things about it. And when you go and check it out, it's like, this dude, he really doesn't know how to write. It's all cobbled together, and the sentences are unimpressive, and the voice it's barely even there. It's not even, it's not even an unappealing voice. It's hardly a voice at all. But this dude is wildly successful. And that's happened a lot. And, sure, I don't want to, denigrate everybody. There's good stuff out there. But, to watch these people succeed where, to me, it's not even worth it, because I had to decide. I was like, well, if I'm going to put all my energy into publishing, how am I going to get any writing done? And I just after trying, the things they tell you to do, I tried it a little bit and I just gave up. I said, nah, you know, I'm going to work on my books. I don't want to work on being a publisher. Something will happen later, but if I don't have the integrity to justify, something magical happening, then what's the point? So to maintain my integrity, I said, no, I'm not going to do the indie publishing. I don't care. But what happens? Nothing. And that is the saddest of the realities. I got to wind down the video, but what's the saddest? Nothing happens for years and years and years. But you know what does happen is that this goes from this much to this much to this much to this much, and then you have all of this, and that's a beautiful thing. It's probably the most beautiful thing. So there's more sad realities to being a novelist. I can make this video twice as long, but basically toiling in obscurity while douchebags, for lack of a better term, become wildly successful. And then the saddest thing, this is my character arc, is listening to these horrible novels at my job, because I have my job where I can listen to books, but the books I got to listen to are horrible. A lot of the time, as a rule, they're bad, and then the exception is you get a good one, because I've read all the good books, but I'm still searching for more good books. But my character arc is now I'm listening to these terrible books, and it's driving me insane. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Thanks for checking out Writer's Underworld. Maybe I'll do a why it's miserable to be a novelist part 2, but for now, that's it. Check out the channel, like, share, comment, subscribe. Maybe we can make a thing. Maybe not. I don't know.